To be successful in a presentation, you want to make an impact and change behavior. At Bright Carbon, we love geeking out about presentations and films, so when there's an opportunity to bring them together, it's bliss. So let's ask, how do you make an impact, Mr. Anderson, when everyone is just going to follow the status quo, be part of the herd? You give them a choice. Take the blue pill and let them continue in the same old way, oblivious to what's happening. Or take the red pill and show them how deep the rabbit hole goes. The best way to make an impact is to show your audience the problems and challenges that they face. Some they may already know, but others they may not. It's all about setting context and showing your audience that there is a need to change their behavior. Make them take the red pill. Give them a heavy dose of reality. Show them that things aren't all rosy and perfect and that they really can't keep going in the same way. Now, when you're doing this, people can sometimes get a bit defensive because they feel like they're to blame for not dealing with these issues already, and that might make them not want to listen. So to get around that, give them the opportunity to blame it on something else. Maybe high-level changes in the industry or environment. You could point out things like coping with these pressures used to be easy, but then the government changed the regulations. Or it used to be simple, but now that everything's online, the situation's exploded out of control and resources can't keep up. Or indeed, that the machines have taken over. This will give them an out and stop them feeling incompetent and sticking their fingers in their ears. Then you give them a new way of looking at the problem that explains why all the current attempts to solve it haven't worked. Give them some key insight that demonstrates their situation and helps them to see things in a new light. It could be fresh research, stats from an industry body, or perhaps a survey that you've done. Really anything that helps them to realize the truth, that they need to change and do something different. In the movie, it was figuring out there is no spoon that spurred Neo on to change reality and break physics. This insight can be simple, but it has powerful effects. Next, you take that insight and expand upon it. This is the scary bit. Explain what happens if they fail to solve the problem, what it's going to do to morale, to staff productivity or revenue, or that the machines will get the codes to Xion's mainframe computer. Basically, you're taking the issue and you're making it very clear that something's got to be done, and it's only going to get worse if they don't take action, so that they understand why this really matters and why they have to make a decision about it. And this structure is important because it follows the same ideas of many of the great stories, taking you down to a base of what is when reality bites, and then up to what could be. And the larger the gap between these 2 points, the more compelling your story is, and the more likely people are to make the leap and actually follow your actions. You're aiming to make it really clear where people could get to by following your suggestions and changing their behavior. This is the driver to do something different, and even though your approach may be to focus on rational arguments, this is still pretty emotive and so very powerful. Now that you've set things up and they want to do something different, you need to let them be the hero. Give them the tools to solve their problems and show how, using your solution or approach, they'll be able to achieve real value. You need to be careful at this point. Just give them a sense of what the solution is without going into too much detail. Enough to provide context to help them understand the intent and the value later on. Think about what your audience needs to know at this stage. What is the basic kit bag they need to understand everything? How much information is required? It's all about setup and preparation for the main show, providing useful context and necessary background. And here you are, the main showdown. Now, it's not just because we're movie fans at Bright Carbon that we're trying to shoehorn famous films into a presentation context. It is a little bit of that, but it's also relevant here. If you think about that rooftop scene with Neo and the agent facing off against each other, Neo changes. He does something different based on everything he's learned through the rest of the film. He dodges bullets. You want your audience to do the same thing too. That is, change their behavior. So you need to show them the real value that they'll achieve by following your suggestions and acting upon it. Show them the amazing things they'll be able to do as a result of this and the outcomes they'll achieve. It's incredibly compelling and persuasive. So you'll set up your content in the right way to get people on board and engaged. And you know what? it's even fine to do it as bullet points. Create a couple of short, clear statements that explain the benefits on offer. These are the key messages that your audience will remember, and you can use to link between your content and the value that your audience will achieve. Doing it this way around means you present the key messages and values after the audience has understood what you're talking about and what's important. So that makes it easier for them to understand the rest of your presentation. And then build on that to structure the rest of the presentation. Chapter your presentation up into key message sections and then structure your content around those sections with the relevant information that proves your ability to deliver, provides the necessary content, or achieves the learning objectives and allows your audience to achieve the necessary outcomes. Then create a slide that summarizes the key messages. Something clear and simple is needed here. It can be bullet points and ideally should stand out and be different from the other slides in your deck. Use this key messages slide near the start, at the end of your short introduction, and repeat it every time you move from one section to another. This helps guide the audience, showing them where they are in the story and how each section relates to the whole. And by repeating these slides frequently, if only briefly, your audience is almost forced to remember what's in it for them, which is really powerful. What's interesting about this approach is that it allows you to talk about how you do something, a subject that's often important as you need to convey the details of your story. But it also means that it's not just about the cogs and wheels, as you keep coming back to the higher level message to show how each of these individual detailed elements fits into the whole machine, allowing you to highlight the benefits for your audience so that they can relate to the content and why they should care and actually change their behavior. And finally, across the presentation, try to link forward to cue information that the audience will hear later on, and link back to messages that they've already heard when appropriate to help them understand where they are in the presentation and how it's relevant. If the links can be made across and between several presenters, then this also is a clear indicator of a team working well together, as it demonstrates that each team member knows what the rest of their team are going to say and that the entire team works together in an integrated and coordinated way.